right, Vincent and Gina, I think we are ready to get started if you'd like to kick us off.
Well, it looks like Gina's still getting ready. So my name is Vincent. I'm a social worker here at the Mayo Clinic. I work in the outpatient clinic, so I help those that need help out in the community, and I try to help people get to resources or whatever else they need here at Mayo. And so today I'll be talking about passwords and just kind of online protection.
Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, I'm Gina Zumak, and I am a social worker here at Mayo. I started in 2013 working in our transitional care unit in Sparta and hospital there. Before that, I was in long-term care for 10 years, and I've recently just taken the position with the advanced care planning kind of specialization. So this is really exciting to be here. This looks like a wonderful program. I guess I can look to share my screen here. Does that sound okay?
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me see here. Share screen. Okay. Let's see, you'll have to let me know if it pops up. I'm not so great at this, so.
Looks great.
Can you see it?
I can, yes.
Okay, I don't know what I just hit there, so I apologize. Okay, so I just put together a few slides to kind of explain what advanced care planning is. I don't know what everybody's background is with advanced care planning, and so we'll just kind of go through, and please feel free to just ask any questions anytime you have it. It was really informal, and we just want to make sure you get the information that you're looking for. Okay, so advanced care planning. I know that a lot of us, when we go to our doctor's appointments and meet with our physicians, it's part of maybe the assessment that we go through with them. Just like anything else with our healthcare, they'll often ask, do you have your advanced directives? And I guess it can be kind of a confusing topic because there are a variety of advanced directives. So what we like to do is just kind of, just start the process. So what is advanced care planning? And then really look at how it encompasses our life. So, our culture, our values, our beliefs, what are our thoughts, feelings, and wishes, who we might choose as a healthcare agent, and then how do we document our wishes on paper so that others know. Discover, reflect, express, select, share. So my predecessor had found a great way to kind of put this in saying dress. So discover, what is advanced care planning? What are advanced directives? I'm sure all of us have heard, from our providers, do you have your advanced directive? And then knowing what that means. And advanced care planning is fluid. What is right for us now might not be right for us in 5 years, in 10 years, as we age and as we collect medical diagnoses. We might change our views on advanced care planning and our wishes. And then concerns. What are concerns about completing a document? This can be kind of, they can be delicate conversations to have and to address with ourselves and with our loved ones. Sometimes our loved ones might not be open to having these conversations. It might be difficult. So we just want to be able to lay the groundwork to make that a little easier for everyone. This is just a case scenario. So Lori was 49 years old when she had a significant stroke. She could not speak or breathe. She was rushed to the hospital. Family came to the intensive care unit of the hospital. When they did, they found her attached to a breathing machine, and she did not recognize her family. The physicians asked her family if she had ever made her wishes known about her future healthcare wishes, if a situation like this would happen. They indicated that Lori did not, and they had never thought to talk to her about it either. This can be all too common as a scenario for those of us who do work in healthcare. Situations do happen on a daily basis with individuals, and not having prior conversations with their loved ones kind of leaves everyone questioning and at a loss. So we encourage these conversations to help get us through some traumatic times like these. What are some of the tough questions? I'm sure all of us have known someone who has died, whether that be a friend, family member, neighbor, coworker, and there are many different scenarios that unfold. So again, it's trying to be prepared for our own by taking bits and pieces of what we've acquired in our personal lives with all of our different encounters with others to help us process what we may or may not want for ourselves. It's knowing it. Can I just ask? I know it's probably an uncomfortable format to ask, but those of you out there, does anyone want to speak to if they have an advanced directive? Is this a familiar conversation, or are we just kind of learning?
I think La Crosse, both hospitals had you fill them out at a certain time. So my mother, I did it, and I've told my kids where it is. But so yes, so I think it was really good of La Crosse to do that.
Good for you. Good for you. And yes, you're absolutely right. In the early 90s, actually, is when La Crosse really hit the ground running with advanced care planning, and having the tough statutes that we have in Wisconsin and the Patient Self-Determination Act really launched us forward as a leader in advanced care planning. So you're exactly right. Anyone else have any insight or experience with completing an advanced directive?
We do have a question in the chat, Gina. Joy asked, if the advanced directive is at one hospital, does the directive follow to another hospital?
You bet. There are certain situations where we have people who do see providers at both locations. And so I know when we do them here with individuals, if that's the case, then we offer to send the document to the other location, to Gunderson. We work very closely with one another. Also, if for any reason a person would be hospitalized anywhere, so this could be anywhere across the country. We have people who travel, we have people who are snowbirds. And if for some reason they are hospitalized in another state, we work very closely in getting that directive to the hospital where you might be staying. So it's something pretty universal that hospitals want. Good question. Good question. Okay, so I might just proceed here. This is a little surprise statement I like to throw in. And it's often surprising, hence the surprise statement, to people when we let them know that Wisconsin is not a next of kin state. So what that means is then if that case that we were just talking about where Linda's in the emergency room and she's had a significant medical situation, a crisis, her family does not automatically have the right to make decisions on her behalf. Wisconsin does not recognize that. That is why we have the push for completing a power of attorney for healthcare. Now, our surrounding states, Minnesota and Iowa, they are next of kin. So it can make it kind of confusing, especially if people or residents of those states get their medical care in Wisconsin. So if that is the case, we do recommend that individuals complete a power of attorney for healthcare in Wisconsin if you do happen to get the majority of your healthcare here. If we have not filled out the appropriate paperwork, what does happen is that it does have to go to court. So if we don't have that power of attorney for healthcare, if somebody's incapacitated and they are unable to make their needs known or their wishes, then we would have to petition the court for a guardian. 9 times out of 10, we hope that that person would be a family member, and that's what the court would choose. There are certain circumstances where that's not appropriate, but ultimately it would have to go to court and a judge would have to appoint a guardian. In that time frame, if a person is unable to leave the hospital, then it can be rather costly because that person would still have to pay for the care that they're receiving in the hospital, even though it might not be the level of care that they need. It's just there's no other place to go. So it can be a costly endeavor to remain in the hospital and then also pay for court fees, attorneys, etc. So that's why we try to be proactive and get those documents done. I did mention earlier that the patient's right to self-determination and the Self-Determination Act of 1991 was the precursor to our area really grasping on and advocating for advanced directives and advanced care planning at that time through both hospitals. And then institutional guidelines. So each of our institutions here in La Crosse, we make that part of a person's care at all levels. In the clinic, in the emergency room, in the hospital, we need to make sure that it's addressed and that a patient has a right to complete these documents. Are there any questions? I feel like I'm going too fast and I want to make sure that if you have questions, you are able to ask them.
Gina, you do have a question in the chat
I do.
from
I
Sandy.
can't see it. Okay. Yes. I can't see it. What?
So Sandy asked, you can link your, maybe it's not a question, it looks like it's informational. Sandy says you can now link your medical record at one organization with another medical organization if both are using the same electronic medical record. For example, here in La Crosse between Mayo and Gunderson, just as an FYI.
Sure. And Vincent, correct me if I'm wrong, that would, we do have access to what we call Care Everywhere, which lets us see a lot of a person's chart, not always all of it though. So, we can get at quite a bit. I know that it can be a bit tricky with locating the advanced directive. Have you noticed that too, Vincent?
Yeah, it can be difficult. Short answer, yes, we're able to see other hospitals' records on a patient through this thing called Care Everywhere. Now getting into the longer, broader information, it comes in a little wonky. It comes in a different format, and it's a little bit more trickier to find the information. However, it does list phone numbers of doctors or social workers, so we are able to reach out to that other hospital if we're in dire need of finding something.
Absolutely, yes. we really try to keep those lines of communication open. And I know as a social worker, when I'm trying to track down a document for a patient, medical records at both facilities are wonderful at getting the document to each other. All right, I'm going to just go back over here. All right, advanced care planning, it's a conversation, and we recommend it for everybody over 18. When my oldest turned 18, I had to complete the document with him. Even though I'm his mother, I would have no say if something were to happen, if he were in an accident or anything like that. So we start the conversation when somebody turns 18. Again, it's going to look very different when we're 18 versus when we're 28, 38, 48. As we continue aging, our document's going to change. What we feel now is not what we're going to feel in the future. So it's a fluid conversation, and it can be a fluid document. We can change it at any time. It's important to think about who you would want to make your healthcare decisions. I'm sure Vincent can attest, in completing documents, you'll have couples that come in and they're thinking about their children. Well, which one, should we have? And some people really, I think it has to be the children who live locally. And to be honest, it doesn't. It can be whomever you choose. We have patients who have family that lives all across the United States. And luckily, in our age of technology, we're able to communicate with people, this way, and, via email and telephone. We're really accessible, and families are accessible to us for their healthcare, the people they're agents for. You also need to make sure that your healthcare agent is able to handle the conversation and the decisions. And not every person is equipped for that. I had a couple come in last week, and they had said, our son that lives locally does not want to be first. He said it. He said, put me down third. I don't want to have that responsibility. But, if my siblings can't, then I will. And I said, that's amazing. And what great insight of their child to say that was something they would struggle with. And that's okay. So we're all not in the same place at the same time. Okay. And, again, when we're an agent for somebody, we're advocating their wishes, their beliefs, not our own. And it's being able to be that advocate. Are you comfortable with it? And, really having those conversations when we're able to. All right, reflecting on your culture, values, and beliefs. We all have had experiences and stories, and what is meaningful for us living and dying. We need to know what those are, and what's going to be important to us when it's time to have these discussions. And again, that open communication with our agents and each other is the most important thing. We often ask, what does a good day look like for you? What does a bad day look like for you? Everybody has a different perception of good and bad. I had a really great example that when I was doing a training, and somebody had asked a patient, well, okay, what would a bad day look like? What would be horrible for you that you just couldn't imagine? And that person had said, if I couldn't get out on the golf course every day, I think it would be horrible. I don't even know how I could continue on with my life. And the person had questioned them back, well, what if you could be out there, but you couldn't golf? Like, what if you were there in a wheelchair or you couldn't? Well, then no, I wouldn't want that at all. but how might that look differently to somebody else? To somebody else, it might be being out there, being in nature, watching, participating, but maybe not being able to do the physical act. And that might be enough. So for each person, your good days and your bad days are going to look very different. And it's, assessing yourself for that and then talking to your agents about that, because that's going to help them ultimately help you make decisions about your future. For some, the better question is, what does not living well look like? And I know we've all had those experiences where loved ones have maybe had to go to a skilled care facility for long-term care. And those are very difficult decisions to make. But sometimes that is what's necessary, even though it might not be our first choice, might not be where everybody can't wait to get to the nursing home. But ultimately, my grandma, she needs that level of care. She needs someone to dress her and take care of her and transfer her and help her eat. But and she couldn't be more loved. So it's all about our transitions in life. So how can we make living well accommodate your wishes? Express your thoughts, feelings, and wishes at each decade. It's a good time to really take a look at where you're at. And I love this picture. This little lady cracks me up. Like she's living her best life there. It's what does it look like to you? And there's no recipe. There's no, it's everybody has to follow their own path and make it work for them. And we as your healthcare providers want to help you with that. Whatever your goals are, we're here to help you with your goals, whatever they may look like. Power of attorney for healthcare document. It can get some feelings and some emotions and wants, what you don't want. It can put it all out there on the table. This can be delicate. The conversations can be emotional, but ultimately, I'd say, and Vincent can chime in, but ultimately, I think people leave the office and after having these conversations, they feel better. Like they feel like they've gotten stuff off their chest. Like, oh, I was really dreading doing this, but then after having it done, I feel some calmness afterwards. Would you agree with that, Vincent? Do you see that with people you meet with?
Yeah, absolutely. No one wants to talk about death and dying. But when you do, you realize, yeah, there is that. We do talk about that, absolutely. But it's talking about it in a way about having your friends and family to be there, to support you, to love you while you go through this next milestone of life.
Mm-hmm. Very well put. Very well put. Yeah, and we will talk about things like CPR and artificial nutrition, hydration, admitting to nursing homes and assisted livings, organ and tissue donation, autopsy as an option, pain management, and other special wishes. Our most recent document has left a lot of the topics more open-ended. We want it to be more of a conversation instead of hard and fast. Yes, no, I want this, I don't want this. It's more conversational. If this, then this. If that, then that. So it's okay. We want it to be like that because we know things change as we age. So select your healthcare agent and a backup. Yes, we want you to have one agent for sure, but we really want you to have two just in case. Things do happen, and it's always good to have that backup agent. In Wisconsin, we cannot have co-agents, so they cannot go, obviously family dynamics don't lend themselves to always cooperative relationships with co-agents. So that's why we choose to go in order of succession. And we do have those situations where, let's say, it's a spouse and their health is also failing. Then in those times, the primary agent does have the ability to say, I really want to give over my authority to the secondary agent to act on the person's behalf. And that's okay. We just have them sign a statement that says that this is occurring. It's okay. Life happens. We know that. And then again, if there was ever an issue with the secondary agent, it would go to the third agent. So your agent will have important powers. Are they willing to accept this role? Do they know your thoughts and feelings? Will they honor them even though they may not agree with them? And are they able to make decisions in very emotional moments? This is real life. This is what occurs. And the more conversations we have now will help our agents advocate for our wishes in the future. So we recommend this be this continuous conversation. And share your plan with others. So you create the document. Now what, right? So when we complete a document with you, we give you a copy for each of your agents. And we do that so that you give it to them. And that is a great time for you to have a conversation with them, because it might be the first time that you're having this conversation with your son, your daughter, your sister. And it's a great facilitation, have them over for dinner and start this conversation. It might be hard at first, but then your consecutive conversations will be that much easier. I have an advance directive. We like to say an advance directive is an umbrella state. It's an umbrella, how do I say, term, okay? So advance directive is here. What are the various parts that lie under the umbrella? The power of attorney for healthcare, a living will, a financial power of attorney or a durable power of attorney, guardianship, a DNR bracelet, a physician's order for sustaining treatment, ethical wills, last will and testament, final disposition of body. All of these fall under advance directive. What do we as your medical providers want you to have? A power of attorney for healthcare. That's our main focus. That's going to allow you to have a decision maker to act on your behalf. As a person ages and as more things happen, then that's when we involve physician's order for sustaining treatment. Maybe a DNR bracelet if that's something a patient wishes. A declaration to physicians, it's more of, they're just more specifics about wishes that you might have that we can always add to your power of attorney for healthcare if needed. Power of attorney for healthcare document. They can be overwhelming when you receive them at your clinic visits. And here, I know people that have stacks of them at their house. They're like, yes, I know we're supposed to do that. But we hear from them all the time that it's just overwhelming. You sit down to look at it and where do I start? I don't even know. And that's where Vincent and I come in. We have colleagues that this is what we do. We bring you into our office. We go through the document with you. And so I know when people are sitting in the chairs, they're like, oh, I didn't know that that's what this meant. This is okay. This isn't as bad as I thought. I was making it worse in my head. And I think that's what we all do. So we're glad to help you go through these documents. And we want you to reach out to us because we can make the process a lot less scary. And when you come in then and we complete it, we give you all your copies right there. You don't have to do a thing. So you'll get that original, you'll get an extra copy, and you get all the copies for your agents. We also scan a copy right into your electronic medical chart, and it's accessible at all of our locations. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. So when should we review our advanced directives? When those things happen in our lives, when we lose loved ones, when we lose a best friend. Okay, what do I have on my directive? Is it still what I want? A divorce. In Wisconsin, if you get a divorce, your document becomes null and void if your former spouse was your agent. So we would have you do a new document at that time. However, some people will still choose to have their ex be their power of attorney. That is fine. Some people do a great job of being best friends, but they weren't so great as partners. That's fine. We just have to do a new document after your divorce, still stating that you want that person to be your agent. If you receive a new diagnosis, a good time to look at what you have in your advanced directive and if you want to make any changes. If you experience a significant decline in your health, a good time to reassess what you have. And you reach a new decade. You might have changes, you might not, but it's a good time to just kind of take a peek at what you have written down and if you want to make any changes. Somebody should tell us right at the start of our lives that we are dying. Then we might live life to the limit every minute of every day. Do it, I say. Whatever you want to do, do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. So I think that's a great statement and something to keep in mind as we all move forward. Also, I say if it's going to be done, let's do it. Let's not put it in the hands of fate. Let's not put it in the hands of someone who doesn't know me. I know me best. Then take a breath and go ahead. So these are your wishes, and we just want to help your medical providers understand them so we can honor them. Again, when it comes to advanced care planning, let's dress for it, let's prepare, let's discover what it is, let's reflect on your culture, values, and beliefs, let's express your thoughts, feelings, and wishes, let's select your healthcare agent and alternate, and share your wishes in a document. And there is our information of both Gunderson and Mayo. We are all here to help you get through this process. So, anybody have any questions?
There are two questions in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Sandy asks, can you obtain an advanced directive form via your portal and without meeting with a provider?
Via the portal, can we scan one in there, Vince? You're better at that than I am with the technology part of it.
Yes. So what you would want to do is you'd want to call social work, and that number is 392-7900, and then you'll ask to speak to a social worker, and then we'll contact you. And if that's something that you want, we can put it in your portal. You have to be from Mayo. If you're at Gunderson, you'll have to call the Gunderson social workers. I don't know their process, but here, yeah, I can absolutely put it in your portal, and you can take care of it from there and print it out.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not a spot for you to upload it to your portal because we have someone review it for accuracy before we scan it into a chart. Just because there's some nuances that Wisconsin requires, and if we don't have things initialed or signed or dated specifically as it's instructed, then it's invalid. So we really try to make sure the document is accurate. So yeah, we do try to give you a call and kind of walk through it to the process, just so we make sure we answer any questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you would have to send it back to probably social work or to your doctor's office, and again, it would get to us to review, and then we'll upload it into your chart. I would also like to say, just so everyone knows, we're meeting with social work and doing this. It would be free of charge.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
The second question is from Dipple. Do all states abide by a DNR bracelet? Where can they be bought? What about traveling in Europe?
Ooh, good questions. I know locally a DNR order, it's a doctor's order. So locally, when a person or a patient makes that decision that that's what they want, then they meet with their provider, their doctor, who goes through it with them and says whether or not they feel this is appropriate, because they have to sign a do not resuscitate order for it to be valid. And then at that time, they go through the process of obtaining a bracelet. I can't speak to each state. Everybody has different laws. I would encourage you, if you're going to be spending time in other areas, to maybe research it a bit to ask. Europe, I honestly have no idea. Sorry about that.
Those were all the questions in the chat. Are there any others?
Okay. Well, I think it's to you then, Vince.
All right. Well, hello. So let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, that's okay. Let's try that. Oh, there we go. Okay. All righty. So I'm going to talk about passwords. This is going to be a little bit shorter. And this is more about for you guys to think about online safety and protecting your information. So yeah, so welcome to Password 123. So first off, I want to talk about my mom. I think it's important, and I like talking about her, and she's a really sweet lady. Her name is Eileen, and she's pretty computer savvy, like I would imagine with most of you guys, since you are participating in a Zoom meeting. She's taken some classes to really understand. She's pretty outdated by this point. It's been about 10 years. But she is pretty internet savvy. She can email. She loves the internet, especially during this COVID pandemic. She, very much into Ireland, has found this wonderful organization that is planting trees for the diaspora. It's just, the internet has just been really helpful for her. She doesn't know how to do Zoom very well, and she's also struggling a little bit with Portal, because you can do telehealth through Portal. But she can do other things like instant message on Facebook, or she can do other kind of face-to-face calling. And then she also likes to read the news. That said, again, the pandemic has really kind of spelled out some blind spots that she's had and that we've had to work through and figure out. And these are going to be the things that we're going to talk about today. Again, just pretty briefly, we're just going to talk about passwords, how to use them, how to make better ones. We're going to talk about liking and subscribing to things and what that means, and what are some of the consequences of doing so. Talk a little bit about buying things online again, and then we're going to talk about gotcha links and how they can just kind of trash your computer. Again, this is all going to be pretty brief overview, and again, it's just mostly to get you thinking. So with passwords, there's the common passwords. I think everyone's used probably one of these. 12345 6. I know I've used password 1 myself, but these are all pretty, you know, easy to crack, and people can always crack these passwords. And that's actually what happened with my mom. She used the same password, which is just her dog's name, 1, for everything. And so that became a huge concern because she did get a breach. She got a breach in her data. And fortunately, Google found it out for her. But and I don't understand how they did that, but they did. I think it's because she was saving her passwords as well. So not only was did she have an easy password to crack, but she also was saving them to their computer, and so it would just be easy for others to access. But yeah, she had it for her Amazon account, for her Gmail account, for her portal, and for her bank account. And so they all got corrupted, and we had to go through and make new passwords for each of them. And again, looking here, they really making sure that when you pick a phrase for a new password, really think about making sure that it's something that no one else really knows about you or that you say. So again, using your dog's name, if everyone knows your dog's name, then that might not be a good password. And one password that I use is back when growing up, my mom had a phrase, and so if she was ever gone and a stranger ever came up and says, "Oh, hey, your mom's sick or whatever, come with me," this is kind of a way to protect me, as a child. That person would have to say the phrase. If the person didn't say the phrase, then I wouldn't go with them. Fortunately, that never got used. But that phrase got stuck in my head. No one else knows it except for my mom. And so if I use that and then I replace it with numbers and symbols and mix up letter casing, I can really make kind of a standard, something easy and standard, like for example, Mayo Clinic Health Systems, into utter gibberish. And that gibberish is there to really protect you because it makes it a lot more complex and a lot more difficult to get into your stuff. Also, just really making sure that you have different passwords for different places. Again, if someone figures out your password and you only have one, then they have access to everything. And they're banking on you only having one password. So really making sure that you do that. Making sure that you also write down your passwords on paper, and that way you have them, you don't forget them. It's so easy for us to forget our password, and it's so frustrating. I know it happens to me all the time, but yeah. So those are kind of the helpful hints or tips, for passwords. Do we have any questions about this? We all know this. Okay. So like and subscribe. This is a ton of information. This is that you are giving out to whomever. And again, for my mom, she really she got bored, 1, because it's COVID, and 2, there was an election, and she got really interested in politics. She got really interested in senators and congresspeople, and she wanted to know more about what was going on. And so she would sign up. She would like and subscribe. She would give them way too much information. They don't need all this. That's a lot. And some also got hooked up with the super PACs, I think by accident, probably because they had some famous person's picture on it. And anyways, so with all this information, especially the email, she started getting 2 emails a minute. After 3 weeks, she had 14,000 emails. And so if I were to email her, she wouldn't receive it. She wouldn't receive other important information from her bank account or from her doctor or for whatever. So again, just really making sure that you're liking and subscribing to a very few things, making sure that it's things that you are interested in and not just kind of casually interested in. And then another thing that you can do is make up another email, and you use that information. I have one email, which is just my name, and I'm very cautious of when and how I use that. And I have another one that's just kind of it's a goofy one. I call it Nunya B for Nunya Beeswax, and at Gmail. And so I use that if I want to like and subscribe to something, but I'm only casually interested in, or I'm not really certain why they want my information. So I'm going to use this generic one that has no information about me in there. And so it's just kind of a junk email that I use to protect myself. Online shopping, being really careful and cautious about this. As you can see, you don't always get what you think you're going to get when you are buying stuff online. Really making sure that you're buying from reputable businesses. My wife, she works on Facebook a lot, and she saw something, some pretty dress, I don't know, something, and when she got home, it looked a lot like what that young lady is wearing. It was just complete trash, and she lost $30 because she can't return it. So also really making sure that you can return the product. I'd recommend, until you get really savvy, unless you already are, but I would recommend going with box stores where you can return the item in person, and that way you can make sure that you have your money. And then the other thing is also, people can be really horrible. And so if you can see online, it has it circled in red. This is from like an eBay or whatever. So these PlayStation 5s, they're the hot new toy. Everyone wants one. They're pretty spendy, and people will rip you off. And if you notice, this is photo of a PlayStation, and it's going to cost you $585, and all you're going to get is a picture. So being really careful with phrasing. If it's too good of a deal, it probably is, and really try to stay away from people, and really focus in on big box stores. Are there any questions with this so far?
We have a question from Jim Vincent. He is curious, after you write down a password, where's the best place to safely keep it?
That's a great question, and it really depends on on how your house is set up, who lives with you, so on and so forth. But my mom has her passwords written, and they're in a file in her desk, and so it's pretty. So if someone were to ransack her house, they would find it. Yep, that they probably would, but they're already going to get a lot more personal information by going through her house, anyways. You could also put them in a safe if you have a safe. That might be a good idea. But yeah, just you want it somewhere somewhat accessible for yourself. But again, it's also how safe is your home already. Any other questions? All right. Gotcha links. These are at the bottom of just about any news article. One of them is from CNN, the other one's from Fox, and they are just goofy, and they kind of run the gambit. They are there to sucker you when you are tired, or bored, or just really need to do something else. If you click on any of these, whatever information that you thought you were going to get, like actors who asked to be written out of TV shows, you're not going to get that article of whatever that is. What's going to happen is you're going to click it, and then all of a sudden you're going to be blasted by 5 other websites all popping up, each one asking for different stuff. And it gets really confusing, and sometimes it's hard to get rid of them. Sometimes they want you to type something in before it gets rid of it, so if you try to click it, to exit the screen, another one will pop up in its place. These are pretty dastardly, to be quite simple. And when you click on them, and if you try to, if you follow their recommendations, like I said, of like you typing something in, what can happen is they can gain access to your computer, and then they can deposit what are called worms, which are just, you know, viruses or whatever that just take your information. They don't mess with your computer, but again, they take your information. So really steering away from these. You know, my mom was, she got really hooked on Meghan Markle. She just fell in love with Meghan Markle for whatever reason, and her gotcha links were all around that, and it got so bad. I think this is actually how her computer got hooked with all these viruses. It got so bad we had to junk her computer because it was just so corrupted with everything. So we're now in the process of moving over her files and data to her new computer. But we don't use that one for the internet anymore. So lastly, just to recap again, passwords, long, complex, and unique, making sure that you swap out letters for numbers and alternate the caps on them. Use more than one password and keep your passwords that have banking information different from your passwords for your Facebook and Gmail. Be careful what information you give out about yourself, because you can only give out your information once. And once they have it, then they have it, and they can really blow you up with it. Be careful when buying online. Use credit cards. They offer more protection for theft. Make sure the online store is reputable, and then learn about return policies. And then also, again, watch out for those gotcha links, especially when you're tired or bored.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
How much information should you give out on your computer? I mean, you're filling out a form and they want your name and your address, your telephone number, and sometimes they even ask for your social security number. Once they ask for my social security number, I quit. But
Good job.
how much information can I give out to people? My name, address, telephone number, and so forth?
That's really up to you, and it's really about what you are wanting and what you're wanting out of this. But just knowing that when you give out your information, that you set yourself up for risk. Now, on my slide with the whole with that like and subscribe, I pulled that from the La Crosse Tribune. The La Crosse Tribune wants all that information. That kind of makes sense. I don't know why they need my phone number, because they're just going to deliver the news to me, but that's something that they want. So if I want the La Crosse Tribune, I'm going to have to give them my phone number. You know, I suppose I can give them a fake number. Nothing says that the information I give them has to be correct, although I should probably make sure my address is correct if I want the news. You know, or if the Gmail, if they want my email, then I can give them the one that I have, my name, and then that way I can get news directed right at me, or I can give them my junk email, and then I don't have to worry about if I don't like what they have. But it's really, again, up to you about how much information you want to give out, if you think that's reputable, or if you just want to give out, or if you just want to lie and give out bunk information. That, again, is also up to you. But yeah, stay away from giving out your Social Security. Great tip.
We have a question in the chat asking about master password keepers such as LastPass or Dashlane. Do you recommend those?
Oh, honestly, I don't know much about those, and I really can't comment on either of them. But I do know of this, that there are passwords, master passwords like that. There's also, like Google will also try to assist you, and they'll create some gibberish and say, hey, do you want this to be your password? You know, that's, again, something you can choose to do or not do. It'll be like 17, 20 characters long of just nonsense. And, you know, that's up to you. And then you, again, have to transcribe that and write it down.
No, well, that was extremely helpful information. Thank you both so much for sharing. Very informative program today, so we very much appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today.